There was that period when I was spending most of my time traveling from place to place, and I found an easy way of earning a living and having a place to sleep: house sitting and dog sitting. It was quite convenient. They would compensate me to sleep in their homes for a while, either weeks or days, just to keep the house under surveillance and also look after the animals. It was easy work, and sometimes I was even able to stay in really beautiful places. That week, I dog sat and house sat in Oregon. I arrived in Oregon on Thursday afternoon. The house nestled back into a quiet spot behind Mount Hood, with heavy woods surrounding it on all sides. It seemed like something you'd see in a magazine, big, contemporary, with huge glass windows and a wraparound deck. The couple greeted me in and introduced me to their dog, a large and lovely golden retriever called Daisy. From the moment I met her, Daisy was sweet and gentle, her tail wagging as if we'd been close friends for years. A little over an hour after arriving, the couple packed their car and drove off on holiday. Once they had left, I spent some time walking around the house, getting to know its layout. Since I would be staying there for about 5 or 6 days, I did not want to be uneasy. The house was just fabulous, worth over $1 million, more than likely, and it was strange to have no other guests there besides myself. It was quiet, peaceful, and completely cut off from any other neighbors. The nearest house would have been miles away. That evening, I settled in slowly. I played with Daisy in the backyard for a bit, ate some dinner I had packed, and then at 7 p.m., took her out for a walk. The sun was setting below the trees, and the woods were bathed in a warm orange light. The driveway leading to the house was long and flanked by dense trees on either side. I walked Daisy down the driveway for about 15 minutes, just enjoying the peace of nature, before turning back. As we were getting to the start of the driveway, I noticed someone coming towards us. A man was strolling down the long gravel driveway, heading in our direction. He looked to be in his early 30s, short, dark hair, loose-fitting jeans. He didn't look at me, didn't say a word, just kept his head down and walked straight by us. It was odd, especially since this driveway did not go to any other property. The whole area was so out of the way that I could not even begin to guess where he had come from, except maybe the house itself. I was uneasy and hastened my steps, returning Daisy to the house. Inside, I locked all doors and ensured that the windows were firmly shut. I justified to myself, maybe the man was just walking in the woods and happened to step onto the property. Maybe it was not an issue. But within myself, something was not right. However, nothing further occurred on that evening, and I did not brood over it. I went to sleep at 10 p.m., Daisy having snuggled up on the floor beside me. The following day passed quietly. I remained indoors for the most part, saw a film during the afternoon, and had some leftovers that I had brought with me. The calmness of the environment relaxed me, and Daisy also appeared to be relaxed. As night descended, I decided to enjoy the upstairs balcony. It had a tiny lounge and a miniature fire pit built into the stone floor. After dark, I turned on the fire, settled into the chair with a blanket wrapped around me, and enjoyed the soft breeze. Daisy followed me out at first, hovering near my feet, then later went back indoors and onto her dog bed. I stayed outside for a bit longer, just listening to the stillness and the sound of the trees rustling. It was around 11:30 at night when the turn of events was dramatic. Within the house, I suddenly heard Daisy bark. Not a teasing bark, nor an inquiring one, but loud, harsh, and panicky. My heart skipped a beat. She was such a peaceful, docile dog that I knew immediately that something was wrong. I sprang from the armchair and ran in, calling her name. The barking had been in the upstairs hallway, and when I got there, I saw that the door to one of the guest rooms stood open wide. Daisy was there, her tail pulled up close to her, staring across the room. She kept barking, growling sometimes, like she was trying to warn somebody. I moved into the room slowly and walked over to check what she was staring at. There was a door to the closet. My hands shook. I crept closer, stretched out, and opened it slowly. Inside, it was as black as coal. I couldn't find the light switch, but I could see rows of clothes on racks. As my eyes adjusted, I noticed a small gap between the clothes stand, then I saw it, one eye, wide open, staring back at me from the blackness. I remained frozen for a second, then slammed the closet door shut as hard as I could, with all the strength I possessed. I heard the clothes rustling and bumping around within. I grabbed Daisy by the collar, dragged her back from the room, and sprinted downstairs. We didn't stop until we were in the vehicle, engine running, headlights shining through the woods road. My hands shook so badly that I barely could hold my phone when I phoned 911. When the police arrived, I was standing outside the house, anxious. 10 minutes felt like an eternity. They searched the entire house, every closet, even the attic, but the man was not there. He had somehow gotten away before the police arrived. I told them everything, from the strange man that I had passed the night before, but I couldn't be sure if it was him or not. The officers assumed he knew the owners had a vacation and assumed the house would be empty. What he had planned to do, they had no idea. But that he would have entered knowing I was already there? That I couldn't get out of my mind. Maybe he was already in the house when I arrived. Or maybe he was following me from the woods, biding his time. What still gives me the chills the most is how he was so quiet. How long was he in that closet? And if Daisy hadn't started barking, I don't know how that night would have ended. I work as a maintenance man for a small marketing firm in Denver. They do all their business during regular working hours, so I work at night. It really works out for everybody. I don't have to wade through people, and they don't have to worry about me taking vacuums and equipment back and forth through their building. It's really technically part-time. I report to work at 9 p.m. and leave around 1 a.m., Monday through Friday. This particular evening, I got there a little later than usual, but I swiped my badge and got to work. The first hour went pretty smoothly. I was wiping down one of the desks in the back when suddenly the phone at the front desk rang. And now, by the time it had happened, the office had already been closed for a few hours, so technically there wasn't really any reason for people to be calling. I thought it was a wrong number or telemarketer call, so I just let it ring. And then, not much later, it rang again and again and again. That's when I started to get a little weirded out about it. I knew it wasn't my boss or anyone from the company. If they wanted me, they would call or text my cell directly. And it wasn't like this was happening right after closing time either. The office closes at 6 p.m., and by now it was roughly 10 p.m. By the fifth call, my curiosity got the best of me. I stood up to the front desk and checked the caller ID. All that showed was unknown caller. I just stood there for a minute, deciding whether to just mute the phone or reach for it really quick to tell whoever it was that the office was already closed. I simply didn't feel like getting roped into whatever it was, so I eventually just muted the phone and got back to cleaning. Half an hour had passed, and I quite honestly had completely forgotten the phone by this time. I figured whoever was calling had finally given up on me. I went upstairs at around 10:30 to take a break in the tiny coffee room. It's small, nothing out of the ordinary, but it does have a bar table and a vending machine that barely works. I was just sitting there, surfing on my phone and drinking water when I heard this weird beep sound from downstairs. It was electronic sounding, like the door unlocking or a scanner, and it shocked me because I had never previously heard that noise in the building. Initially, I tried to brush it off. Then, I heard a door creak open and close. That's when my stomach sank. I turned my head in the direction of the stairwell, just stuck for a second. I couldn't think of a single soul who would be entering the office this late. Hoping that it was just someone in the office who had forgotten something, I stood up and went to the top of the open stairs. I paused there, listening. Then I called out, asking if anyone was down there. For half a moment, there was nothing. And then I heard footsteps. They stopped the moment I opened my mouth. That silence hit me like a punch. I yelled again, attempting to maintain a level voice, but I could feel my chest tightening. Every muscle in my body tensed as my mind started racing through terrible possibilities. A few more shuffled steps approached, and I hesitantly leaned over the railing of the stairs to look down. There, at the stairs, I saw it. A man's shadow. He was perfectly still, maybe just a foot or two from the door of the stairwell. It was as if he was waiting for me to come down to him. My skin crawled, and after some heavy moments, I stepped back quietly from the railing and drew further into the coffee room. My fingers shook a little as I picked up my phone and called 911. I crouched behind the bar table, whispering to the dispatcher in a low voice while keeping an eye on the stairwell. Every little sound made my heart jump. The hum of the vending machine, the faint groan of the old floorboards under my feet. It felt like forever, but only a few minutes went by before I could hear the front door open and an officer shout for whoever was inside to come out. My ears listened for any reply, but none came. The officer's footsteps echoed in the office as he made his way to the upstairs level. When he arrived, he said he hadn't seen anyone. We watched the security camera later. That's when we noticed him. The man had stood at the foot of the stairs for a couple of minutes. He had a knife, just standing there, totally calm, like nothing about this bothered him in the slightest. What really chilled me to the bone was realizing that he probably hadn't even noticed I was there until I screamed out. But having heard me, it was clear. His body posture changed, and he looked like he was going to harm me if I moved in his path. Just as the police were approaching, he busted out the front entrance. Most bewildering is how he gained access. Office doors lock once a day after office hours and require key card entry to enter. That beep sound? The card reader to enter. And the strange part is, I don't even have a card like that myself. I merely carry a standard metal key. His search is still ongoing. Nobody has any idea who he is or how he acquired a key card. I am still working there though, and every time I start a shift these days I check the doors twice and I have my phone right next to me. I try to tell myself it was probably just a one-time thing, but honestly, some nights I still get that same weird feeling creeping over me, like maybe the next time I won't get so lucky. My name is Dylan, and I'm a sophomore at a small college in Oregon. I'm somewhat fortunate in that my family pays for my tuition and room, so I don't have any huge bills hanging over my head. I do still need to purchase my own food and anything I want to do with friends on the weekends, however. To manage, I pick up delivery shifts with DoorDash here and there, just enough so my bank account doesn't run dry. I drove a beat-up old Toyota Corolla that should have been retired years before. The paint was faded, and one of the side mirrors was held on with duct tape, but it got me where I needed to go. Most of the time, anyway. That evening, I'd been on deliveries for a few hours already. It was probably 11 p.m. when I received another order, this one from a Taco Bell downtown. There was nothing out of the ordinary about it on the surface. No odd notes, no unusual requests that raised a red flag. I picked up the food, tossed it in the passenger seat, and hit the road. The app showed the drop-off location was a good 20-minute drive west, mostly along this empty highway that cut its path through some densely wooded areas. As I drove, I could see how isolated the road was. No car behind me, none coming from the other direction. Just me and the dim glow from my low-beam headlights barely lighting the path ahead. The headlights in my Corolla were terrible, and you couldn't see very far ahead, maybe 10 or 12 feet. It made me a bit anxious, but I kept going, thinking about the money I'd earned by finishing the shift. Eventually, the app told me to exit the highway and make a turn onto this gravel dirt road. That's when the uncomfortable feeling started. The road was rough, potholed, and the deeper in I went, the darker it got. There were no streetlights, and everything around me was just thick woods. All that I could hear was the crunch of the gravel under my tires and the swishing sound of the trees every time the wind moved. After maybe a minute of driving down that road, it suddenly dead-ended. I looked at the app again, and it said I'd arrived at the delivery address. But when I looked around, I didn't see any house. No mailbox, no driveway, nothing. Just trees and darkness. I stepped out of the car, holding my phone out to try to get a better look, but my flashlight wasn't much use. I took a few steps forward, staying close to my headlights, trying to catch sight of a path or maybe a house back behind the woods. But there was nothing. Nothing but more woods in every direction. I started to suspect that I must have made a wrong turn further back along the dirt road. Maybe the map had failed. So I reversed and opened my car door to get inside. That's when I noticed something. A small, faint light, deeper in the woods off to my right. It wasn't flickering or moving, just sitting there, shining faintly between the trees. My first impression was that it might be a porch light, far away so that I couldn't see the house where I was standing. I simply stood there awkwardly for a moment, holding the tacos, unsure if I should try to head in its general direction. It certainly didn't feel safe, but if that was the customer's house, I did not want to cancel the order and be penalized. Then the light shifted. It slid behind one of the trees and disappeared, either extinguished or merely hidden by the trunk. It did not reappear. A shiver ran down my spine, and I was suddenly highly aware of just how isolated I was out here. If that light was the customer, why would they be traipsing around the woods? Something didn't feel right. I backed up a few steps toward my car, and that's when I heard it. The crunch of dry leaves beneath someone's feet, directly in front of me. I froze, my heart pounding. The footsteps were getting closer, but I couldn't see anything. Nothing except darkness among the trees. It was as if whoever, or whatever, was out there. They were heading straight for me. I panicked, dropped the bag of food to the ground, and scrambled into my car. Naturally, my trusty old Corolla had a mind of its own and decided that very moment to die. I cranked the key interminably, each moment ticking by more slowly than the one before. Then the engine lurched to life, and I slammed it into reverse to awkwardly execute a 3-point turn on the narrow gravel road. As my car turned, my headlights briefly lit up the edge of the forest, and that's when I saw him. A man, sprinting through the trees, moving rapidly towards the road. He was clearly trying to cut me off, to get in front of my car. His sudden apparition made me shudder. Fortunately, I managed to accelerate ahead before he reached me. Another second's delay, and I don't think I could have braked in time or swerved around him. My vehicle rattled and shook as I sped along the gravel road, every bump jarring my teeth. The remainder of that drive back was just too quiet. Not even the wind appeared to move. I did not even bother to finish my shift. As soon as I got back on the highway, I simply ended it on the app right then and there and drove home directly, slamming all my doors behind me when I arrived. Later that night, I opened Google Maps and searched for the area where the app had led me. There were literally no houses anywhere near that area. It was just a deserted road to a dead end in the middle of nowhere. I don't know what I stumbled into that night, or how many people might have been waiting out there in them woods. But here's what I do know. I was lucky to get away. I ain't made any late-night country deliveries since then, and to be truthful with you, I don't know that I ever will again.